And you're live.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Greg Gilmore. I'm here to um, kick it off with the Balayage Week this week. I'm here representing Matrix, of course. I'm one of Matrix brand ambassadors, and I've come to you on the Behind the Chair stage. I think it's really dope. So right here, I'm just doing some balayage. I've just gotten right into it. And I have James here with me. James is a mannequin, of course. However, normally James has a lot more hair, so I've given him a fade. Let me show y'all. Giving him a fade all the way around. Okay, so he's ready to go. So we got the shape in there. Now we want to add some color. We want to add, some flavor up in there. And of course, I'm going to use our balayage technique. He has textured hair, so it's a little different working with textured hair. Now, what I did is I smoothed out with the blow dryer a little bit of this area first, and I did not, blow dry the front because I'm actually going to do that on camera for you guys to see how I do that. But you want a smooth canvas when you're doing balayage because you want to get those strokes really neatly. So I'm starting off with some strokes in the nape. Okay, so I'm approaching mine. It's a little different. I'm starting off in the back because I know that in the front we want to see a lot of that. We want to see a lot of that color pop in the front for his money piece and all of that. Primarily when his hair is styled, when we put that curl gel in there or that curl cream to style and define his curls, we're probably going to be pushing his hair back and kind of doing like a little push so that he has that height in the front. So of course I want to start in the back so that by the time I get to the front, I could really, stroke in those money pieces so that you can kind of see something really extravagant or just real popping in the front. Okay, I should have did some balayage on myself first, but lifestyle, I can never really maintain it. So as a stylist, we know color is oftentimes paired and considered, or we consider what kind of colors for our clients when we also consider their lifestyles. And so I'm so busy, I couldn't maintain it. But anyways, James is not as busy, and he's going to maintain this perfectly. So I'm just going in. I'm making like a V shape. I want to make sure that you guys can see this. And I'm just grabbing here and I'm making like a V shape, leaving a little bit of hair on the interior right there. And just picking up some hair. And a lot of times what I use to help me is a paddle board. And just kind of put this hair right there and stroke it in so that I saturate those ends really well.
Hey, Greg, this is John from Behind the Chair. We actually have a question already.
Wow.
Do you usually start in the back for short hair?
Yes. Well, it depends. It depends. Excuse me, I had a piece of hair in my mouth. It usually depends on the way that client is going to be primarily wearing her hair. So I have another example that I'm going to show you also in a different placement of the balayage technique that I've already completed. And so for this particular case, as I said earlier, he is going to be wearing his hair to the front. Actually, I have a finished piece here. This is how his hair is going to come out. You see, he has this money in the front, So I'm starting in the back because as I move my way forward, I can really have a lot of emphasis on his front, and he wears his hair to the back. So that will dictate how the balayage placement will be on the client. So I hope that answers your question. So I'm just going through. I got a little piece of balayage wrap, and I'm just going to put that in there and close this one little piece off and continue forward. I'm just moving in with small sections, maybe like 1/2 inch or smaller, okay, depending on what you're doing. So this piece right here, I think that it is kind of large because I'm covering this whole area and primarily working on the top. So I'm going to, kind of split this in half, okay? And get my brush and my paddle. And sometimes you have these pieces on the side. That's okay, because I'm going to show you what else I'm going to do to address those areas that get left out. If you stay with me, and I'm just moving through and making small strokes. And sometimes if you get a little bit of paint, lightener, however you'd like to refer to it, on this area, you can just dab it off quickly as possible, you know? So then I'll scoop my little board in there and I'll grab it with that board and saturate those ends. Now, since I have it locked onto my board, I can go right in and saturate. Now, saturation is dependent on the kind of finish you want. Sometimes you want light saturation, just primarily on the surface, because you just want a sweep through of color that looks very natural and uncontrived. However, I feel that when working with natural hair or textured hair, you tend to want to heavily saturate with your product because the hair is almost like a sponge. And so once it's dry, depending on the style that you're going for, if you just do little small pieces on the surface, they tend to disappear within the whole scope of everything. You know what I mean? So I feel that it's very important to saturate so that you can see the full emphasis of that impact, you know, that color that's going to be coming and transforming this client. By the way, I'm using Lightmaster with the bonder in it. That means that you don't have to add additive. It just kind of cuts down your time in the salon when you're working with your clients. And I'm also, just for some freehand painting with my lightener, I've added some of our additive. Okay, it's also a Lightmaster product that we have, and you just add maybe 1 scoop to maybe 4 scoops of lightener. And it will, you know, transform your lightener into a freehand painting balayage situation. So I'm just going through. I'm going to continue this little piece here.
Hey, Greg, and we have another question from Katie.
Hey.
How long does short hair balayage usually take, and how much time do you book it for in the salon usually?
Now, a process like this, even though its hair is short, because of the different processes that we're going to be going through, this can still take 4 to 6 hours. It just depends. So I always just let them know 4 to 6 so that they can adjust their expectations. And, you know, the reason why I say 4 to 6 is because this is not something that I necessarily want to rush through. This is something that, you know, I want to be able to take my time and make sure that every piece has purpose. So I'm just going to go in and take my time, make sure that every piece is right. I'm actually using 20 volume with this lightener. I hope that answered your question. I'm using 20 volume. And the reason why I'm using 20 volume is because I want to have more time to take my time. I want to have the appropriate time and give that to myself so that I complete this with care. I'm not rushing. I'm not building up a whole bunch of anxiety because I used a higher volume and now my back is processing too fast. I just want to take my time. So I'm using 20 volume. It's a safe bet. Sometimes you can also use 10. 10 would be recommended if you have more hair that you're working with and you're going to have a lot of hair, you know, in the nape, on the sides. In James's case, he doesn't have a lot of hair in the nape and he doesn't have a lot of hair on the sides. So I'm going to go through with a 20 volume because I think that will be sufficient enough to do what I need to do with this placement. So as you can see, I'm just stroking it on. Towards the root, maybe you want to have a lighter hand so that it's fully saturated on that top. And then towards the end, I like to have a heavier hand. And I love doing painting. I love painting in general, but I love hair painting. I love color because it makes me feel like I'm Bob Ross. Bob Ross is one of my favorite pop culture icons, you know, very calming, very soothing. And so I feel like Bob Ross when I'm painting a lot of times. And it's very meditative. I think that if you have a really calm environment where your clients can just relax, that this is not a chore. It's something that you just really enjoy doing and they enjoy having done. Um, I think the salon experience is very important and really makes the job easier so that you can produce the great work that you want to produce in a calm environment. And the client is not stressing you out because it's crazy in there, you know. But it just depends on your own preference. So today, I did not have any assistant, which usually I would. So on a normal work day, I would have, assistant come in and, maybe pull off some of these wraps for me so that I can work more efficiently. When you're doing it by yourself, you have to be uh, strategic and you have to be organized. You have to have foresight and planning. So a process like this, I would make sure that I had all my materials on hand, everything that I'm going to need right there. I have my station, plus I have my cart. And my cart has developers, bows, brushes, towels, everything that I may need so that I don't have to run somewhere and grab something. So I'm just painting this on again.
So Ali Dawson asks, do you find balayage touch-up appointments to be more frequent with short hair clients?
That's a really good question. The whole technique of the balayage is so that it grows out very nicely. Actually, I don't. And it just depends, again, on the type of balayage you're doing. I think other color processes may take a shorter time and they need to be retouched more often. However, with the balayage, it grows out very beautifully, unless you have a client who has great coverage, who needs great coverage. But again, sometimes you can just go in with the base color of their natural tone and just cover their gray right there at the root as soon as it's coming in. And you may not have to touch up the blonde so quickly. A lot of times, and it probably would be a whole different class, if you want to, retouch some balayage, you'll have to also be retouching in low light application, meaning that you'll be doing some balayage with Lightener, and you'll also be doing some balayage with their base color, meaning that, in between each section, maybe you're breaking up some of that blonde so that it looks fresh and new again. But with short hair, if they're a client that's maintaining their short hair and they're doing that, they're keeping that style, then a lot of times, it can grow out pretty beautifully until it's time for another balayage technique and you just kind of can do it all over again. But it just depends. So I'm going to go through and I got another piece going through. Now, before I move forward, we can see that it's getting real textury up in there. And so, as I said before, we want to make sure that we have a smooth base. So I like to go through and smooth out the strands so that it's easier and I have a nice smooth palette or canvas to work with. I do that by just straightening out the hair a little bit, or smoothing out the hair is a proper way to say it. And just doing that very lightly, gently. I think with texture hair, where most people mess up is that they begin to roughhouse the hair, or because it's so much and so intimidating, they just kind of get in there and they're rough. But it's actually one of the most sensitive textures, and it needs special care. It needs small partings. It needs combs that will have long teeth that allow the hair to have room to travel when doing a comb out, especially when the hair is wet, because we know that the hair is weakest when it's wet. So I'm just gonna go through, and I'm just using a Dyson blow dryer with the comb attachment. And smoothing it, gently smoothing it through. A lot of times you want to start on the end first and work your way down. that makes the job way more easy, or it's easier to handle the hair working from the tips all the way down. And so I can have a very smooth palette. And so I'm going to continue on. I'm just really focusing on this middle section. As I move closer to the front, I probably can start incorporating some of those side hairs, but I'm just really going to be working with their tips. I will always try to have some clips on hand when working with textured hair, because sometimes you need to clip some pieces out of the way. And I hope that you guys are seeing this pretty good, but
they are. You're getting a lot of love and a lot of oohs and ahs.
ooh.
Hey. Katie is also asking, are you taking different size sections or the same?
I'm taking like half and half. So if I take a whole section, and that does depend on the diameter of everything that's above the parietal ridge in this case, in James's case, because we're just working with hair that is on the top of his head. So the perimeter, or the I don't know if I'm saying that right, but this top portion of his hair, I'm just splitting it in half, because I think half gives me enough of a piece to work a nice V section. And so I'm just working V sections. Sometimes if the section is too wide, then I can work a V section and put a stroke in the middle. And sometimes if I'm just really trying to be intricate and have a lot of dimension in there, I can do 2 V sections with a stroke in the middle. So I can show you that now. So it just means that I'm going to start on the sides really lightly. And some of this hair starts to come out. I just try to grab it anyway. And if it does, it's okay. I just kind of still stroke it in. And a lot of times you'll find once you start stroking it in, it starts to come with you anyways. And once I get my sides in good, then I have a lot more control of this piece. I can grab it and I can scoop my little reservoir in there, get it inside my paddle. And now I can just kind of go in and saturate. And I like to start off at the ends first, just to make sure that's nice and saturated and get all that going on. It's kind of customary, but I think after you do this a lot of times, it just starts to be more fun and less of a task or chore that you're learning to do. And so once I get my V kind of in there good, like so, if I want to, I can add a stroke in the middle. And I think that it's important to have a very steady hand. It also depends on the brush you're using. So this particular brush is a color, I think it's Color Track. But I like the brush because it has the space in between the bristles, but it has two rows of bristles. So it makes this part very thick. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it has 2 rows of the bristle. Kind of like, I can kind of cut through it and have bristles on both sides, if you can see that. So it has 2 rows of the bristles, and so it makes this part really thick. Working with textured hair, you probably want a nice thick brush to give you a nice thick brochet, and brochet is just that first stroke. So now I'm going to go into my other piece real quick. And I got some little short hairs here. I might can just kind of hit them off just a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. If I can see. I have some short little spots here from my cut. So I'm just kind of moving those into that area. And then I can just tap, tap. Okay. Working with natural hair, it seems really hard, but it turns out to be really fun. It's just all the prep that's involved that kind of can be intimidating.
We have some people asking about foils. Do you have a preference working with or without them?
You know, honestly, I'm old school. I love foils. I would probably never get rid of foils. When balayage first kind of came in trending, I wasn't really on board with balayage for a long time. However, once I started to embrace balayage, I understood that it's sometimes it tends to give you a quicker outcome in technique because the service can be quicker. Also, it was just something new, so it was something fun to add um, than just those regular old highlights all the time. Now, in some cases, I still will use some foils if I need to for particular situations. But again, for balayage, honestly, using using the plastic like this is just way easier in separating because you just want to be able to separate each section. You want to be able to see the development of each section. And it just helps you stay organized. And it's easy, with the foils, you got to get the foil, you got to fold it up, all that kind of thing. However, if you're old school like me, in a way, you're just so used to it because you got it down for so many years. It's like riding a bike. So when you have to learn something new, it's just kind of like, dang, but it's also a chance to grow. So I always love education because I see what's new and I know that it's something that can take me up out of my comfort zone. And we always have to be taken out of our comfort zone, I feel, so that we can grow. So with balayage, normally I'm always using the plastic, the wrap.
Awesome. We actually have a couple of people just joining, asking, just got on, what's the best number of developer to use on textured hair? If you could recap that.
Right. So in this particular case, I'm using 20 volume. I think 20 volume is going to give me enough time to do the technique that I'm trying to do on my client James here. He has shorter hair, plus he doesn't have hair all the way around. I've cut him so that he has just hair in the top or above the parietal ridge is going to be the focus. So 20 volume is enough, and I think gives me a safe time to execute the balayage technique that I want. Now, if his hair was, a bit more fuller on the sides, and I was going to include this technique around the nape and maybe on the sides and that kind of thing, I probably would need a little bit more time. And so I would probably start off with a 10 volume instead of a 20 volume because it would just give me more time. Mm-mm. It would just give me more time. So in this case, I'm using 20 volume because he has shorter hair. I have less hair to work with. Also, I did go in with my Lightmaster additive, which gives the Lightener an ability to do freehand balayage painting. That's this product. Okay, it's just an additive that you add into the Lightener so that you can make sure you can freehand. So I'm gonna just do one piece. I'm gonna start some other stuff. And again, I'm just kind of grabbing that side here just a little bit on the tip so it can kind of flow into my right side of my V. I'm stroking that in. Get it into that palette.
Doreen asked, because you're working on textured hair, is there no need to tease at the root?
I was going to address that too. That's a good question. Now, you can tease at the root. I think the root teasing is an added measure that you can take for a seamless finish. However, I always just go in with a shadow root anyways. You know, rather the shadow root is very close to the natural texture of hair color, or it's just a little bit darker than the highlights themselves or balayage pieces themselves. It just kind of shows a little bit of transition. And so the teasing is nice, but with texture hair, I don't feel like I always have to do that. But you can do that. You can do that if you want to. So I got this going on. I'm gonna sit him to the side because I'm probably gonna finish him later. Okay. But for those who have not seen the finish, I'm just gonna give you a quick snippet real quick. This is the finish. Okay. He's looking dope. Okay, this is James' twin. This is twin, and they both came in. They just came in at separate times, you know. So in the front, you can see as I finish that technique that he'll have a lot of pieces, and those are the balayage pieces, but they start very, you know, intricately like those V's that I showed you in the root. And then I also did a shadow root so that it just looks like a seamless, you know, kind of worn in color that is uncontrived, almost like it's natural, almost like it's natural lightning like that. But anyways, I also went in with an an ultra lift to accent some of his curls or some of the balayage technique because his hair is pretty dark. So you can also see that he has some lighter, lighter tones to complement, and it really ties it off all in together from the dark to the medium to the light. And so with the medium part is done with the ultra lift, and I want to show you guys how I did that. Also a different way the placement is. So this is Karen, and I'm just saying a random name. There's nothing, you know, crazy about that. But she is balayaged already, but not toned. I did cut her so that we can have, you know, an emphasis of, you know, the same shape that I'm working with. Her hair is naturally straight. So what I like to do is come in. Her placement was a little different. I started in the front. Her money piece is in the front. So what I did is I took some pieces, starting in the front. And I'm just going to show you real quick how I did that. And you can see her technique is the same strokes. So like maybe that I did half, and then I have this piece here. So I did a stroke here, and a stroke in the middle. And then it all got saturated toward the end. Okay. I can't see.
We got a lot of people asking what toner did you use?
So the toner is a Ultra Lift P. Okay. And so the great thing about using Ultra Lift Ps or Ultra Lifts is that you can lift the hair that was left out and get a pop of, you know, a few levels of lift to complement the transition from dark to light, and also tone the light pieces that you've made or, you know, placed at the same time. So that way you can kind of cut down on the time. Some people just kind of stroke in the balayage and then maybe you're stroking in, you know, some low lights as well. Then you still got to go back in and tone, you know, the lightener that you've already placed. However, you can just do your balayage technique and then go in and do some more balayage, which is kind of like following the same pattern that you already created. But, and I'm going to show you that now real quick. You follow the same pattern, but you just go on the sides and include some of that hair that was left out as you also are hitting the areas that you already lightened. Okay, so I'm going to show you that real quick. Our ultraviolet or ultra lift P. P is a soft violet. That's why I keep saying violet. You can use ultra lift V too if you have a lot more yellow. But sometimes I like the warmth as well. Sometimes you don't always necessarily need it to be so cool, so, you know, so ashed out. And so the soft P gives you like a more soft violet to it. So I got my measurement right here. I'm just gonna go through, got my color key as well. I'm just gonna squeeze out just a little bit. And it's about 19 grams. Now our ratio for the Ultra Lift is 1:2. And so for this particular case, I don't want a whole bunch of lift on the surrounding hair or any of the hair that did not get into the balayage strokes. I just want a little bit of pop. So I'm just use 20 volume. Okay, and 20 volume will still give me the toning that I need. Also a little bit of level shift. So like maybe if I only got to a level 9, something like that, I can probably get to a 10 or 11 with 20 volume in the Ultra Lift toner. Okay, and sometimes when you are working and you know that your lightener has sat already for about an hour, it's taking you 45 minutes to do this process, but the back still didn't lift enough, you know, and you can't go back in, you may have to hit it with an ultra light or ultra lift, because that'll give you at least 2 more levels depending on the volume. Now, if you want to, maybe 30, maybe 40, but you're pushing it. Okay, so of course you are the judge of that. You have to use your professional judgment. So I'm gonna grab a towel and wipe some of this lightener off so I can mix my Ultra Lift. And I'm using a rubber whisk. I think sometimes when you're working with colors that are permanent or colors that are in the tube, they could have, you know, some derivatives of metal in them that are microscopic. And so when you use a metal implement to mix them, it could speed up the processing of your color. And so we always recommend to not whisk with anything metal or mix in anything metal. So I'm using rubber to mix and go in. I got another brush here. And so we have, and it's kind of hard to see because, you know, she's already so naturally light. But in most cases, that is the case when you're doing balayage on naturally straight hair. So we got this stroke here and we have this stroke here, which is lighter. And so what I'm going to do is by toning this area, I'm going to get it on those areas that I already placed my balayage technique on. And then I can also go a little further in with my V where this color is also touching some of that hair that was left out. And so then I'll get a nice little pop in that area that complements the transition from dark to light. I'm not sure if you understand that. Please give me some hearts or something like that if you understand what I'm saying. Because I can't see you. And so with this part, this is where I would use some foils for this part. And you can just kind of stroke it in. Make sure that you're getting all of the placement that you already made, but you can be less careful with this because it's okay to get some of the surrounding hair that hasn't been balayaged in the mix. So let me go ahead and put a little foil on here like that, which I should do in the beginning, but I was so anxious to show you what I was talking about. And so just kind of stroke it in there. Again, if you just joined, this is a Ultra Lift that I'm adding to what I've already balayaged. And so that would be it. And you can just let that process. Now the Ultra Lift is good for processing up to 45 minutes. So you can pretty much take your time. I think it's easier going back in the second time. I'll do a foil like that and I'll just leave it alone. I won't fold it. I won't bend it. I'll just leave it like that. And I will follow the natural growth pattern of her hair and how she likes to wear her hair in her lifestyle. So I'm gonna say Catherine, okay? Catherine likes to wear her hair with the stroke in the front. It's still the money piece, but because it's straight, you're gonna see more of the, strokes coming down and less when she pulls it up. So in this case, I started in the front just like I'm starting this process instead of in the back like I did with James. So here, I can just move around her head and follow the same pattern that I did first.
Someone is asking, what do you usually ask your clients to use for aftercare?
Right, that's a great question. Now we have this whole new series, Unbreak My Blonde. I usually will retail that to my clients. That just ensures that their blonde is going to be taken care of. Blonde is such a sensitive procedure, and it makes the hair a little bit more sensitive too. So it's good to just have something that's specifically catered to that type of maintenance. So this is Unbreak My Blonde because we wanted to not break. And this is a really great product to retail to have them shampoo with their hair at home. Now, if you've used a violet tone or something like that, it would be great to have them also take So Silver home. So Silver is great because it's our purple toning shampoo. You can shampoo it once or twice and get some really great tone, and just really neutralize any of the yellow. If you let it sit for 3 minutes, you also neutralize the yellow along with the mask. And the mask is, in our XL size now for the back bar. So if you're using it in your back bar, you can have a big size. But if you're retailing it, you can have the small original sizes to just have go home with your clients. And so it, comes out pretty cool, and it has this almost like teal. I don't know if you can kind of see, but don't let it scare you because it's not gonna make your hair teal. It's just specifically formulated to tone that yellow out of there in 3 minutes or 5 minutes or less. Okay, so don't put the mask on, go into the deep condition. It's gonna be too much toning. It's gonna need all that. It's for it was formulated in mind for speed and for efficiency, so that we can have a better time and a quicker time when we're servicing our clients. So that's what I would send them home with. I'm running out of time. I'm gonna just do this last stroke so that you guys can see. And then I'm gonna show you one other thing, so don't go anywhere. Boom. Then I would just add another foil to that, like so, and then voila. So she's processing. I'm gonna bring finished James back real quick. And I didn't want to mess up his curls that much, but I might have to, just so that you can see. So finished James is dope, okay? He looks great. He's got a little bit of, color on the top. I thought it would be different to, show this technique on a male. This is how a male can also wear a balayage technique. And this is something that can still be done on a female as well. Only thing that makes it masculine or feminine is the shape. And so the shape is more square here for James, and it's more round here for, I'm gonna just take these out, but it's more round for Catherine, okay? So for styling his hair, what I went in was, I did use a leave-in conditioner. I used the Miracle Creator, which is always a good leave-in conditioner to use on all texture, all hair, whether it's processed or not. It's a great pH balancer. It creates a lot of slip in the hair so that you can get a great comb out, meaning that you want to move through the hair quickly, sufficiently, without pulling it, without snagging. The Miracle Creator helps you do that. After I was done with that, I'll use our new series that's coming out, Curl Cream Dream. I'm not sure, I don't think it's out yet, but this is what I use. And so it's our Curl Cream, which is a really nice mixture. You can kind of see the consistency. And so what I did with that is while the hair was wet, I took sections of the hair and just applied it into the hair, and then just finger combed it to the back. I actually started in the back, and I just slowly, section by section, moved to the front. So once I was in the front, this hair just kind of laid on top of itself. And so you can either let that air dry, or you can use a diffuser and diffuse it. Or if you're really busy in the salon, you can also just sit underneath the dryer and just have the hood just a little further up, so that it kind of speeds up the natural drying process. Because I feel that the curls come out better when they're untouched, when they're dry, from wet to dry, untouched. You've placed them, because curl or hair will take on the shape that it's put in from wet to dry. So if it's wet, you put it in a curl, it dries, it'll stay that form, because those hydrogen bonds come back together and they lock like that. So that's how I would do his hair. That's how I done his hair. And you can see in the front how the balayage came through. I'm gonna just bring this real close so that you can see. So now when I did the first process, it was basically just putting in the light, okay? Then I did the Ultra Lift P, and that got on some of the hair that was left out, which brought it up a couple levels. And so overall, it gave this nice transition from dark to light. I also took an extra measure, and I painted on a 6 NV at the root, okay? 6 NV is what I felt matched his natural tone more. And so I just went in and softly just hit the root a little bit, so you have this really smooth transition, okay? So he was looking good. He looking good. He looking fire, you know. Oh, wait, that's the side I put the little curl cream on. Fire, okay? Now, one other thing that you can do, and I'm gonna get out of here, for styling with natural hair to finish, I have another girl. I forgot her name. I don't know her name. However, you can go through, and when this comes out, it's not out yet, but you can use some of our Curl Can Dream curl gel, okay? And what you will do is do a perm rod set, which reinforce the curls. It dries with some nice firmness, okay, because this is pretty firm. And then each curl is probably about 4 or 5. So you take those apart, and you have these beautiful little curls just like that. So, and it comes out really nice. And she also had kind of like a balayage technique, but the balayage was done first, and then I toned everything else. And I stroked in a few other semi-colors, just to kind of add some, some pizzazz to it. But overall, it came out, spectacular. And I could have finished, but I didn't have time. So I just made sure that I did a little bit of this front part so that you can see how this comes out. And, when I take all this out, it's going to be given boom, boom. Okay? It's going to be given. So that's all I have for you guys today. Is there any more questions that you can ask while you have me here right now?
There are no more questions, just lots of emojis and fire. But someone did say, as a matter of fact, her name's Katie Lynn, and she's asked a bunch of really great questions. Seriously, just from watching this video, I feel more confident in short hair balayage. So mission accomplished.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to recap real quick, okay? So in case you got in late, what we did, we had James. We had James's twin. Okay, James' twin had to finish. James had the before, you know, and I cut it first. So just to demonstrate some short hair technique, because James needed money pieces in the front and he wears his hair to the back like this, then I started in the back so that I could finish in the front. I started with balayage pieces, with these, and some with one stroke in the middle. You can see it lightening already, okay? So one thing to mention that was really important is that I smoothed his cuticle out first so that I had a smooth palette to work with. From that point, we let this process. I used 20 volume with our Light Master with the bond builder in it. And I also used our Light Master additive for freehand painting so that it could process as it dries like this. I didn't need foils. So as we went into that, I had a second process with Catherine. And you can see this is already kind of coming through and changing, where I used our Ultra Lift to tone and lift the surrounding hair in between the balayage placement. So it means that I took strokes here and saturated the ends, and inside I got some of that color on the inside where some of the hair was not balayage, and it lifted, so it just complemented. It complemented the color placement. And so also I started from the front because she wears her hair to the front and it's naturally straight. So in that case, I'm gonna start in the front because it's gonna be enveloping over her face. So then she's finished, and then we got James, who was ultra finished, and you can see how the balayage technique, along with the ultra lift added, has complemented and created a really great color scheme from light to dark, okay? And he's wearing it natural. I finished off with some of our curl cream to style his hair, okay? And I just gave a little extra tip on what you could do for reinforcing some texture in the hair to make it more defined. You can use a perm rod set, and you can set the hair with papers and perm rods and a curl dream gel, okay? You'll finish with a nice hold here, nice firmness that will last for that client. She'll be very happy and she'll be looking fly, okay? So that's all I got for you today. And I hope to see you again sometime in the future. I hope you really enjoyed what I have to present for you. And you're more familiar with some of our Matrix products. So that's it for now.